Ladies and gentlemen, now the reason why I'm going live today, well, I have another live at 1:15 because I had a coaching call I thought at 12 to 1. So I said at 1:15, but then my 12 o'clock got moved. But coming on here to touch on this other topic that somebody sent me. And I'm going to see here. And then sometimes what it's easier for me to record and then to go live and then just leave it as a recording than it is for me to record and then try to upload. And somehow, I don't know what kind of AI or what y'all using, but somehow people are getting my personal email, and instead of sending stuff to support at Tony Gaskins, they send them a personal email, the emails I don't even own. And so seeing this topic this morning in my personal email that asks, could I discuss how men in the church view women? And that's what we're going to be talking about later today at 1:15 p.m. Eastern. So make sure, you just turn your phone on, even if you working or what have you, and you just put it to the side and have your little headphone in or something, unless you work at a different type of job. But we'll really get into it at 1:15 p.m. Eastern today, where we'll be talking about Lil Ugly. And y'all know Lil Ugly is the term I use when I'm talking about men who that spirit is using. But in essence, it'll be a little different today, where I'll be talking about Lil Ugly. But I wanted to touch on this right here. And Love Smith, God bless you. God bless you. Okay, ghosted by your date. Wow. And Tyra, I'll be in a flow, so I'm not sure what we'll get to talk about, because I'll be in a little flow, and that one right there is a little deeper, a little more spiritual in the sense of just what I'm talking about. Now, here's one of the things that I'm noticing right now, and the reason why I'm about to be doing these series, and these series gonna be heavy. I let one of these spirits know last night that they had awakened a sleeping giant. And I had been minding my business and just doing normal little videos and all of that. But now it's getting serious. It's getting a little more intense. And one of the things I noticed, that there is I don't know if you'll call it a veil, or it might be the wool on a lot of women's eyes, a lot of women's eyes. And it's some men too. It's some men, like some men cannot see men. Like there are men who can't tell if a man is being used by the adversary. Y'all gotta forgive me here. Let me see if I can make sure I got that camera wiped off. And the thing, what you have to realize is the devil is crafty. And we seen in the word where even when Jesus went to the wilderness. Oh, before I get too deep into that, y'all make sure y'all check the link in the description. So if you new here or it's your first time seeing it, you'll see my YouTube channel drop on there, and you can click the link and go and read all about it and join us if you like to. Now, you will see, even with Jesus, when he was fasting, and that on the other side of fasting, the devil come to him and just start testing him, just right away testing him. And then he offer him all the kingdoms of the world if he'll just, bow down to him. And when you see that right there, that's what lets you know that there will be wolves in sheep's clothing. And there will be men who pretend to be good men. They pretend to want to be helpful. They pretend to want to serve and to lead and to sow, but they are a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we're going to go a little deeper later on today. But see, the foolproof for this, and this what a lot of women don't understand, is because you allow a man to have control of your heart, and you do what you want to do based on what that man does. So instead of you having a standard, you have a preference. Because see, a standard, you stand on your standard. See, preference, it wavers. It like a leaf in the wind. But instead of you having a standard, you allow yourself to be deceived and to be tricked. And what we have going on now is we have a lot of men who understand that if they look like, but see, it ain't in public. It's behind closed doors. You know, I got into it with one of these demons last night, and I was talking to the guy, and in the conversation, the guy had a very kind of tone about him and called me the N word. And then when I checked him in such a way that kind of let him know, like, don't try me like no baser, because you don't know what tree you barking up. Then he tried to fake apologize. And that right there, that's that spirit that I'm talking about. And that's what inspired this series, Little Ugly, because that's the spirit of what somebody call nice nasty. You know, that term that was coined, nice nasty. So what happens is men know, see, the devil knows that there is power in the name of God. So when somebody says the name of God, typically people are at ease, but you have to test the spirit. And if you test the spirit, you will see that a tree will let you know what kind of tree it is based on the fruit it bears. But in order for you to see the fruit, it takes time. So what happens is women today and forever are victims of emotion. So if the conversation hits right, and if the quality time hits right, and if the laughter hits right, if the date was planned right, if the touch feels right, then a woman forgets her relationship with God and makes that man her God. And the reason why so many women are being used and deceived by so-called men of God is because women are having a relationship with a man, but attributing the attributes of God to the man. What I mean by this is the Bible says, wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord. Although that is an instruction in the Bible, it is an innate desire in the heart of most women without a woman even knowing or noticing or admitting that she has a desire to submit unto a man, meaning to allow a man to be the front line of defense, allow the man to be the protector and the provider. So women take and anoint a demon with a priesthood, and women anoint a Decepticon with a priesthood because he said the name of God. So just because he goes to church and or he serves in the church or he preaches in the church, now women take and give this man the carte blanche that they should give God in their heart. They take and give it to a man. And this man sees that and he knows that. When you ask a woman who is in the church and you ask her and you say, what are you looking for in a man? 10 out of 10 women will say, a man of God. So now what a man who is being used by the devil will do is he will pretend to be a man of God. He will walk like, talk like, look like, sound like. But see, this ain't the act like a duck, look like a duck, walk like a duck. It's a duck. See, when it comes to spiritual things, just like when you see in the movies that emulate spiritual things, like the Marvel movies and the DC comics, how you ever seen one of those movies where they have the villain, but the villain can morph and change his face to look like the ally, the good guy. And you will sit here and you will be talking to the villain, but you will drop your guard because he got on the face of the ally. And the thing about it is you get to talk to the villain, you get to talk to this demon, but you don't get to go behind closed doors with this demon until you taking off your clothes. So you with this demon, but when you pay attention to it, the villain who can morph into the hero wears the hero mask in public. But then when the villain goes to its cave, it can take the hero mask off and rest in its villain face. But see, the woman doesn't get to see the villain go home and remove his mask. But now, see, last night I had a call with one of these villains who has a podcast, who is pretending to be someone who wants to help. But what let me know, and it was just a small sign. And see, this is the thing that women don't get to see. It was just a small sign in our conversation as two quote unquote Christian man. He proceeds to say, nigga, now we know who are black, what that word means in that tone. In that tone, in that way, in a one-on-one, supposedly one-on-one private conversation, that right there that's fighting words. That's words that will get you backhanded if you in person. And we all know that. But see, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And then I checked them and I said, hey, don't you ever in your life call me no N, because I don't use that word, because my heart is pure. So no profanity leaves my lips. And just by you saying that to me, and you don't even know me, because I could have you laid up on a slab if I was triggered back to the old me. But just by you saying that lets me know that you are who I thought you were, a Decepticon. And that's what right there. And I say, you have woke up a sleeping giant. And so we finna go deep on this here series. And this a little preview because somebody asked the question, how do church men see women? This a little preview, but at 1:15 Eastern, we talking about Lil Ugly. And we finna talk about this spirit that's inhabiting these men in their 30s and their 40s and transforming them to look like a good guy, but their heart is really evil. Their heart is impure, and they are claiming to be Christian, but they living and wallowing in fornication, and they don't operate in the spirit of God. See, the thing about these men that claim to be Christian is they're not operating in the spirit of God, because the spirit of God does not fail. The spirit of God don't fail. So when you fail, it's because you have separated from the spirit of God. When you fail, it's because you are on your own strength. And so here I am. I was talking to this gentleman last night who has this spirit on him. And he has a podcast. And he said, I come out and I admit that I struggle with my abstinence journey. I'll be good for 5 months and then I'll fall. I'll be good for 7 months and then I'll fall. And this is what he said. I said, no, you're not struggling. You're making a choice. Because when you commit to something in the name of God and you are a representation of the name of God, and you having Christian conversation and you bringing on Christians onto your platform, you have to be above reproach, because what you don't understand, well, no, this is what these Decepticons understand. They understand that women are gullible at large. They understand that a woman cannot see the true nature of a man. That God did not give a woman the ability to see a man behind his mask. A woman has to be told exactly what she is looking at. And until she is told and she learns and she listens, she will deal with Decepticons and demons in disguise. So what these men are doing is they coming out here as a demon in disguise, and they using a platform of being a Christian or being a deacon or being an elder or being a pastor or being a Christian podcaster, and they are preying on not Proverbs 31 women. They preying on, I think it's Proverbs 5 women. And they have these women who are gullible, who are lost, who are naive, and who cannot see a demon in disguise. And they provide these conversations and they do all of this stuff and they have all these conversations. And what they take and do is they take and they present themselves as someone who cares and someone who wants to read a Bible with you, somebody who want to pray with you, somebody who want to collaborate with you, partner with you. But it's to get you to drop your guard. It's to get you to hug the beast, to lie up with the beast. That I remember reading about a study one time, and it was where they had a baby monkey, and they had the baby monkey with his mom, and then they removed the mom and they put in an exact replica of the mom, and they put needles on the mom, and and the baby thought that it was its mom, and it went to lay up against the mom and cuddle up against the mom, and it got poked by the needles. But because it had received love and attention and affection from the mom before the replica came, the baby monkey did not care that now mama had these nails that when it get close and it hug or it go in for some milk or it go in the lean on or the cuddle or the play, is getting poked. And that same thing, and what it was showing is how, almost like the Stockholm syndrome, what it was showing is how we can be, the brain can become addicted to our supporter or our supplier or the person who at one point was a good person. And then when they start to show who they really are, we don't have the strength to leave because we holding on to who they once were. And we holding on to this, and we're trying to see and we're trying to understand, okay, things was good, things was nice, things was, things was pure. Like what's going on? Because now I'm being gaslit. Now I'm being manipulated. Now I'm being deceived. So what is this? Is the good gonna come back? Is the nice gonna come back? And that's how these demons in disguise get you. Now we're gonna talk about it at 1:15 Eastern when we talk about this spirit that I'm calling little ugly. Now, this ain't a literal term or anything like that, but I'm titling the spirit little ugly because it's a spirit of deception. It's a decepticon. And this right here, and these spirits is running rampant. And see, this the thing is these men that's operating under this spirit, they're not in it for numbers. That's a child's game when you want to sleep with 7 women in the week. They're not in it for numbers. Now, what they seeking is quality over quantity. And you're gonna hear me repeat a lot of this, but I'm saying it just in case you're not gonna be here at 1:15 Eastern. What they want now is they want to use their podcast and have that microphone in their face, and they want to use their guest to get people to drop their guards. And what they want to do is look attractive so that naive women will start to reach out and get in the DM. And when these women get in the DM because they think that they safe, they think that little ugly, the devil in the pew, is a man of God. Not realizing that behind closed doors, these men cursing. Behind closed doors, these men fornicating. Behind closed doors, these men behavior and actions and they mouth resembles men of the world, men who don't care about God, men who blaspheme the name of God. But see, women don't see that because the women don't know who these Decepticons are behind closed doors. And then what happens is women start to gravitate towards these men and start to try to reach out and strike up conversation because they feel safe. And what they don't realize is that this Decepticon of a man, this devil in the pew, he is siphoning through these women. And he create his own risk assessment chart. He create his own comparison chart. And he takes in his mind or literally on paper, and he starts to say, okay, 4'11", 5'3", 5'6", 5'10", 6'2". Okay, 105 pounds, 135 pounds, 155 pounds, 185 pounds, 250 pounds. Okay, HR manager, lawyer, doctor, business owner, podcaster, influencer. Okay, single mom, virgin, abstinent, celibate. Is celibate, and she really abstinent, but she ain't look up the definition of the word, so she's saying celibate instead of celibate. But he just let her have it. Oh, you celibate? Okay, celibate, loose booty. And so he creates this Decepticon, this devil in the pew. Remember, he not looking for numbers. He ain't trying to sleep with everybody because the more women he sleep with, the more he expose himself, the more he is susceptible to being exposed. So what he's doing is he using his podcast, he using his platform, he using the pew, he using the pulpit, he using his 6-figure job, he using his role or his title in the church, he using his height or his complexion or his muscles. This Decepticon is using these things with the name of the Lord to get women to drop their guard. And then he taking all of these women in the name of looking for his wife. But really, he don't want to be married no more than Satan want to be in heaven. He don't want to be married. He don't want to settle down, because how do you have men in their late 30s and in their 40s and in their 50s walking around talking about they are looking for a wife, but there are 1,000,000+ eligible, beautiful, successful black women walking around. How can it be true that a man who claims to be a man of God is looking for a wife and have the nerve to say he looking for his wife, to the point that they will create platforms pretending to be looking for a wife, but what they looking for is quality amidst the quantity. They want to get these women from behind their veil. They want to pull these women out, draw these women in, and then they want to take liver lips with slob in the corner of their mouth or some Coke bottle glasses, and they want to sit there and they want to start to talk to these women. And what happened is when this little spirit that I call little ugly go to getting up in there and go to raging, what happens is it want to get these women because these women did not want him when he was younger, before he had money, before he had a name, before he had a platform. He couldn't have a conversation with a absolutely drop dead gorgeous millionaire. But because of being a devil in the pew, because of being a platform pimp or a podcast pimp, now he can have conversations with women that would not have otherwise paid him any attention. But see, here is how this goes on. The way that this goes on is these men, they take and they start to look around, and they got this comparison chart. And when they have this comparison chart, they choose the woman who is vulnerable, but she has the most to lose. She vulnerable, but she got a name. And that name, now this name could be subjective. It depends on where you are. When I say she got a name, it don't mean she a celebrity now. She could just be a school teacher. She could just be a minister. She could just be something, a role in the church. She could be a politician. She could be a business owner of a 7-figure business with a following. See, when I say she got a name, it don't mean that she a celebrity all the time now. And sometimes it's a celebrity. But this is what these podcast pimps is doing. This is what these pulpit pimps is doing. This is what these pew pimps is doing. They using the name of God to get women to drop their guard. And then when these women drop their guard, they move in for the kill. And they move in and they pretend to be Mr. Right. But all they is Mr. Right now. And these men some of these men is on your job. Some of these men is in your church. Some of these men got a podcast. Some of these men got a pulpit. Some of these men got a presence, got a platform. But see, one thing I know as a man that women don't seem to really wrap their head around is you not finna be no 40-year-old man talking about you looking for a wife and you still single. That is a lie from the pit of hell, because it absolutely entirely way too many eligible, beautiful, successful, qualified women of God walking around here for a man who got social media, who got presence, who got platform, who got profit, who got all of this right here to say he can't find a wife, especially if these men look like a black Air Force One, or the back of a 56 Buick, or the bottom of a shoe, and to be talking about they can't find no wife when they got a plethora of beautiful women in their audience who is placating to them, sucking up to them, blind for them, naive for them, gullible for them, but they talking about, oh, I can't find no wife. I don't know where she at. I can't find no wife. That's a lie from the pit of hell. That right there is a devil in the pew. That's a devil in disguise. And that right there, and see, the thing about it is, they don't woke me up now. They don't woke me up now. It's finna, if you fall for this after hearing this series that I'm finna be doing for the next 7 to 14 days, you deserve everything you get. If you don't lock in every single day and catch the videos that you miss, you deserve everything you get, because you was warned, you was told, and you chose to be a fool. Because it's women today that is on their back right now with these podcast pimps and these pew pimps and these pulpit pimps and these all platform pimps. They is on their back in fornication because they thought this man was a good man because he said the name of God, because he sat with Christian men, because he sat with pastors, because he interviewed pastors, because he go out to lunch and eat with pastors. They think he a good man, but behind closed doors, he's a lie. Behind closed doors, he's a fraud. When they talk to me and they realize one-on-one, and I tell them to their face, I talked to one of them last night and I told him to his face, you's a fraud. I don't respect what you're doing. I don't respect your podcast. You is a liar. You is a deceiver. And I know what you're doing. And you know I know what you're doing. And that is why you never called me to come on that podcast, because you already knew I wasn't coming, because you know I could see you, because I done played the game. I done been him. I know what it looked like, but guess what? I ain't never been ugly. So I did not have to struggle and go through, because society has constructs and they call people pretty or ugly or attractive or unattractive. And I never was mistreated. So I didn't have a vindication. I didn't want to be vindicated when I became a 30-year-old man, a 40-year-old man. I didn't want to go out and seek revenge. I didn't want to get married and then cheat on my wife multiple times because I was able to. I didn't want to do that because I didn't have that trauma and that pain of societal constructs working against me. And it still, I worked against myself and I made bad choices, but I never had a desire to be a Decepticon and to just come out and placate and try to sneak in and be sneaky and claim to know God, but then give up my, if I'm saying I'm abstinent in the name of God and I'm sitting with pastors and all of this, and then give it up every so often. And then give it every 5 months, every 7 months. Like the gentleman told me last night. That what let me know right there, you walking on your own. God ain't in you and God ain't with you. God ain't in you and God ain't with you. And see, behind closed doors, these men have profanity leaving their lips. But guess what? Not never once will they let that profanity leave their lips on that podcast. And when they will do it in the pew, in the pulpit, on the platform, on the podcast, when they will do it is when they know they have cultivated an audience that is drunk. When they have an audience that is drunk, when they have an audience that have made them an idol and put them on a pedestal, then that is when they will show their fangs. That's when they will take and show their true colors, because now they know their audience is drunk. And last night, I seen a gentleman who has a drunk audience and is leading an audience of people to hell because he pretending to be a helper. He pretending to care, but behind closed doors showed me his real true colors, showed me the filth in his heart, the profanity in his heart, and the lack of care in his heart, and told me out his mouth that he does not vet his guest and he don't care about how people live their lives. That's not his concern. And I say, you are serving up broken and hurting and gullible women to charlatans, to scammers, to abusers, to fornicators. And you will have to answer to God for that. And he was silent, and he said, well, that's not my calling, that's not my ministry. And I say, use a lie. If you say the name of God, then you got to be above reproach. I say you got sitting on your podcast people I know personally who have gone through 2 divorces. You got people on your podcast who are beating on women, who is fornicating with women, and you got an audience full of women. And these women, because this man is sitting next to you, they're going to think that these men are upstanding men, and they finna go to these men and they fixing to give out their life savings. They fixing to open their legs just because they heard the man say the name of God on your platform. And this is the same thing that's happening in the church. But guess what? They done woke up the wrong one. They done woke up the wrong warrior for Christ. They done woke up the wrong servant of God. They done woke me up now. And you gonna know now. You gonna know now who is a Decepticon and who isn't. And if you is crazy enough to get on your back and open your leg for one of these liver lip, serpent tongue having, deceiving, Decepticon, demon in disguise men, then you deserve to get up with that disease. You deserve for God to take his hand off of you, because you are being forewarned that we are under a time where men are operating under demonic spirits, and they are taking over platforms, they taking over pulpits, they taking over podcasts, they taking over every space in media, because they want to slay women. They want to have these women eating out their hand so they could sell them a ticket to a seminar, so they could sell them a book release, but could not get it right in their marriage, could not be faithful to their wife. And what they come and do is they showing you one hand, and they got the napalm behind their back. They showing you one hand and they saying, oh, I'm telling my story. I'm honest. I'm transparent right here. But they're not showing you that behind their back is a life of fornication that they still living. That behind their back is a mouth and a heart full of profanity that they still operating in. They say, oh, I cheated on my wife. I cheated on my ex-wife. And oh, I did this. And oh, I did that. They showing you what they got to show you. And they're showing you that because it's people like me who told them and let them know, don't ride out here like a knight in shining armor. Come out here and expose yourself first. Come out here and expose yourself. Then you could try to do some work. So see what the semblance is right now. What you got to understand is that the devil know how to look like an angel. The devil know how to transform and make you think he's an angel. The devil know how to come and say, oh, well, let me do some of the things that honest men of God do, like be transparent. But what the audience don't know is that behind my back, behind their back, I'm cursing like a sailor. Behind their back, I'm in fornication. Behind their back, I don't care about who I sit up here on this podcast or in this pulpit or on this platform or on this YouTube channel. I don't care if they beat on women. I don't care. I was talking to one of these Decepticons last night, and the Lord's still working on me in the sense of speaking names and having my name spoke, because the Lord knows my heart and what I struggle with, and the brain damage that I have suffered in college from countless concussions. So I still work on myself. And if somebody say, well, if you speak my name, I'm gonna speak your name, but they don't understand how I may respond to my name being spoken. So I'm gonna just not say names, and I'm gonna use this as an example. I was talking to a Decepticon last night who got a podcast, and I said, do you know this person right here? When somebody told me his name years ago, when I Googled what came up, he said, no, what came up? I say a mugshot for domestic violence. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. So you done come into the space to take up space and acquire space and to talk about love and relationships, but you have not done your research. Do you know this other man that I know personally that you brought on your podcast has gone through 2 divorces? And you sit him on your couch and you position him with relationship quotes and anecdotes to the fact that now other podcasts is bringing this twice divorced man who is an attention seeking narcissist, y'all word now, twice divorced man. How can you be short as a man when every woman want a 6-foot man almost? How can you be short and get the grace of a woman? One of the men that sat on the podcast with this gentleman that I had to correct last night went through 2 divorces, and I went to his second wedding. And when I tell you, there's a term that people use that I got it from Channing Crowder on the podcast The Pivot. He said out punting your coverage. Now if you don't play football, you might not understand what that means. But basically, it's like batting out your league. So here's this gentleman who is by no means, by no stretch of the imagination, seen as deeply attractive or even remotely attractive by women. Never heard a woman say it. But he got a great talk game. I mean, got an amazing talk game. And I mean a silver tongue. I mean, just deceptive with the word. Just wrap you up. But God had never elevated this man. And I remember talking to my wife, and I said, baby, you know, this gentleman reaching out to me, he want to collaborate. He want to collaborate, and he want to like do a tour together. He want to do events together. And my wife said, she said, baby, sometimes God have people where they are for a reason. She said, you can't take your light and your favor that God has put on you and give it to somebody else who God has not authorized for a time such as this. And the same, so I ignored the man. I didn't do nothing with him. I ain't do nothing. And then the man I talked to last night who got that demonic podcast that is being pitched as a place and a couch for God where we have Christian conversation, but he's not living like no Christian. Because used profanity with me last night, told me that he fornicate every now and then, every 5 months or every 7 months, which I don't believe that stretch of a word. And then told me that he come out and admit it and talk about it, and then the audience still don't care. So how somebody fixing to have all of this Christian conversation and all these bishops and all these pastors come on their platform, but can't live for God, can't stay out of fornication. And then just because they fornicated, then come admit it, oh, that's supposed to make it okay. But then go right back to it. That's not a repentant heart. That's a demon in disguise. And I told him last night, I say, you out of line and you're going to have to take accountability when you see God. And I say, I sent this same warning out to the gentleman who died when he started laughing and mocking Christian women who was trying to save themselves. Because what you have to understand is that when you say the name of God, you become responsible. When you say the name of God, and I'm not just talking to podcasters and preachers, I'm talking about also the men who are saying they are men of God. They are saying they are Christian men. See, let me help you understand something and how dangerous this game is that you playing. When you say the name of God, you position yourself in the light of God. You position yourself beside God. And what God has given man dominion and authority of is to use his name and a woman be put at ease. That's why most Christian women, when you ask them, what do you want in a man? They will tell you a man of God, a man after God's own heart. You know why? Because she wants to be able to rest in her feminine. She wants to be able to be in the chest of her man and be protected and be covered. She wants this man who claims to be covered by God, who claims to be walking with God. She wants this man to be able to cover her. She wants this man to be able to live for God and walk with God. That's what she wants. So when a man say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I love the Lord. Pray every day. Read my Bible. Now, I'm not perfect now. Now, I'm not perfect. What does Jesus say? He say, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. He don't say, oh, you could just keep sinning as much as you want and don't worry about it. Just come out and tell everybody that you sin, but you ain't got to turn away from sin now. Anytime when Jesus forgave somebody's sins, he will forgive them of their sins. But if you recall, there were people that he would say, your sins are forgiven. Now go and sin no more. Nothing that Jesus said is by accident. So we're not supposed to be sinning intentionally. But you know what fornication is? Fornication is an intentional sin because you got to jump through hoops to fornicate. You pants got to come down. Drawers got to come down. You got to lay down. It's a lot that got to happen for you. You don't fall in fornication. You jump into fornication. And now here we got podcasters who is talking about God and claiming to have a platform for God, but they living in willing and continual fornication. They laying up with women that they have deceived with the name of God. And they saying the name of God to get their audience to drop their guard, to have their audience to put a veil over their face. And you know what the Lord showed me? See, this is what I seen last night. This is what I seen last night. And I ain't said no name. So y'all talk about somebody, I listened to him, but stop. I ain't said no name. I ain't said no name. So how you know who I'm talking about? Because is a spade a spade? Because I have not said a single name. And so now here's the thing. The Lord showed me last night that there is a sector. There's a sector in the body that they don't want to know God. They don't want to draw close to God. They want a leader who is flawed. They don't want a leader who is above reproach. They want a leader who can come to them and say, I cheated on my ex-wife numerous times. They want that because it gives them the comfortability to be comforted in their willing sin. They want a leader who says, hey, I fornicate about every 5 to 7 months. I try to do right, but then I fall into sin and I fall into fornication. They want that because they want to be able to be in fornication. They don't want the name of God. They don't want the name of God to be above reproach. They want the name of God to be cloaked in sin. They want the name of God to be wrapped up in sin. They want the name of God to be lukewarm. They want the name of God to be brought in with messiness. And just because their leader, just because they podcaster, just because they pastor can stand up and admit to their sin, that comforts them. Because they say, you know what? Ooh, look at how God using this man. This man got 100,000 followers. He got 200,000 followers. And he say the name of God. So it must be God using them. How do you think the devil could offer Jesus Christ, the Son of God, kingdoms on earth? Just because somebody says the name of God and they have a following does not mean God is with them. If their life does not represent the word of God. And I talked to one of these demons in disguise last night, and he told me out his mouth that he fornicates. So the power of God must not be real in your life if you sitting with pastors every week having conversations, but you still fornicating. And not only is you fornicating, but you calling another black man behind closed doors who is a Christian who you never hear profanity leave my lips. You calling me the N-word in a fighting tone. Not no laughing tone, but in an aggressive tone, a tone that would have got you slapped in your mouth had we been in person, and would have had me having to repent to God. But because we was on that phone, he knew he was safe. So he gonna use the N-word with bass in his chest. And right then, I seen everything I needed to see. Right then, I knew who I was talking to. Right then, I knew. Because see, the thing about it is, when you done walk with the devil, when you done the devil's work, when somebody doing it, you could see it. And when you doing God's work, when somebody doing it, you can see it. You have to test the spirit to see from whence it came. You will know the tree by the fruit it bears. So if you got ministers around you and sitting around you, I ain't say no name, Tiana, and I don't say names unless I have to say a name. So touch your nose in the chat now. Just listen. It don't matter who I'm talking about. Get the lesson. This ain't a gossip blog. This ain't about a person. This about the spirit. Because this ain't just in this podcaster that I talked to last night. This is your coworker. This in the guy that go to church with you. This in the guy that's saying the name of the Lord, but the next thing you know, you on your bike and your legs open. This a spirit that it's all throughout. This ain't just one podcast. It's several podcasts. This ain't just one pastor. It's several pastors. This ain't just one minister. It's several ministers who is saying the name of God, but not living above reproach because they want to rely on grace. They trying to manipulate grace, but God will not be mocked. God know your heart. God knows the power that he possesses. God knows that if you say, Lord, give this alive, Britt. God say, if you say, Lord, give me the strength to be above reproach. Give me the strength to not fornicate. Lord, give me the strength to not use profanity and filthy words out of my mouth. God's power is sufficient. He can give you that. But when you keep doing those things, that let me know God ain't nowhere near you. And God ain't got nothing to do with what you doing. The demon in disguise I talked to last night gonna tell me, well, look how God blessing me. What he talking about? And he's a podcaster talking about look how God bless. I said God ain't got nothing to do with that because I could tell the nasty spirit on them women in your comments that it ain't no God on that podcast. Because if God was on that podcast, them women in your comments wouldn't be nasty spirited like that. They wouldn't have that filthy mouth like they got. They wouldn't be talking like they talking. They wouldn't be in fornication if the spirit of God was on your podcast. But God ain't nowhere near it. He ain't got nothing to do with it. That's why the people who is playing in the face of God, the men who is divorcing their wives and divorcing multiple wives, just like the host of the podcast cheated on the wife and went through a divorce, they know they could go sit on that podcast and they could cast a net and they could fish for gullible women. They could cast that net the same way Jesus had them cast the net on the right side of the boat. They go on these podcasts and they casting their demonic net and they swooping up all of these naive and gullible women. Come buy my book. Come buy my course. Come be one of the 2,100 that's going to give $2,100 in 21 days because they done sat on that podcast and got some new donors. They done sat on that podcast and got some people to buy their book, sat on that podcast and got some people to come to their seminar. And yet they living in fornication, but got the name of God in their mouth. Living in adultery, but got the name of God in their mouth. And don't know that because of the realm that I operate in, that I know their secrets. Because when they sleep with the innocent, the gullible, the naive, they come to me. Because we know what a lighthouse look like. If you know God, then you gonna know who God sent. But if you can't look and tell who ain't sent by God, that let me know you don't know God. So what you say about me don't matter. How you feel about me don't matter. Your opinion don't matter because you don't know the God that I know. Because I could look and tell. And you know what? I could have been wrong. I could have been wrong. When I called this man out with this podcast, and if you watch all my videos, it was a lot of women that was in the comments talking about, I am so shocked with Tony. I am so shocked. I am so disappointed. Guess what? That let me know they don't even watch my videos. They don't even follow me. They don't even know me, because if they follow me and they listen to my word, they would have already heard who I done called out. So they would have already been disappointed. They follow the demon in disguise, Little Ugly. And this spirit is running rampant. And now they done woke me up. And now you going to have to hear about me. And you going to have to hear about it every day. And I'm finna bring the wallpaper off the wall, because the gig is up. The jug is up. You're out here deceiving, and you're out here sleeping with these women. And this one, I'm going to tell you how they do it. See, women have pride too. Women have pride too. So if a man who is a demon in disguise could get a woman who she don't want her name to be ill spoken of, she will come out them draws and his secret is safe. That's how these demons in disguise keep feeding the monster within them. Because their secret is safe, because who they sleep with got too much to lose. The women they sleep with got a name. The women they sleep with got a brand. The women they sleep with got a position in corporate. The women they sleep with, she can't come out and say, this man is a fraud because he deceived me by telling me he's a Christian man. And then he wined me and dined me. And then I ended up on my back. But he does not live for God. And he's sitting with all these pastors and he having all these conversations, but he living in willing fornication. The woman can't say that because she embarrassed. She's mad at herself, or she worked for the devil and she was sent by Satan to fuel up his minion. See, sit with me now. Let me help you understand something. Because see, when you don't understand principalities in high places, when you don't understand what we wrestle against, let me help you understand something. There are women with a Jezebel spirit or another spirit that we don't have a name for, who they can see because they walk with Satan. They know Satan by name. They know him intimately. So they can see what pastors and what podcasters and what platform pimps working for the dark side in the disguise of the light. So what they do is they slip in the DM of this man and they strike up a conversation. And her and this man start to have a conversation. And then the next thing you know, a week, a month, 3 months, 5 months, 5 months or 7 months, like the man told me last night out of his own mouth, that about every 5 months or 7 months, he fall into fornication. At that timeline, at that time period, this woman sleep with this man. And if she come out and she just shows her hand as a jump off, he won't sleep with her because he's afraid of screenshots and he's afraid of being exposed. So she plays the role. She played a role to pretend that she's a classy woman, but she is a Jezebel spirit. She is a Decepticon herself. But because he does not really know God, and because he does not really walk with God, he falls into fornication with her when he is having a platform with ministers and bishops and pastors saying the name of God and supposedly a Christian outlet, but he in fornication with another demon in disguise, and their spirits are unified. But see what the adversary did is the adversary say, hey, young lady, I got me a soldier out here that is pretending to be a man of God. And the way he does it is he admits his flaws. So I've trained him up really well. So what he does is he comes out and he admits his flaws and he calls it transparency. But he calls it being transparent, and he says that he fears no one and he has nothing to hide. But see, I taught him that. This is what Satan's saying to the young lady that she finna send to have her fill the tank of his soldier in the field in spiritual warfare doing his demonic work. He say, I have them be transparent. And also, I didn't choose somebody who's attractive. I don't choose men who women will really lust after, because I want the woman to feel like this is a little ugly. Because if she feel like this is a little ugly, that this is a man who looked like a black Air Force One, she will drop her guards because she's more susceptible. See, the way I done, this is what the devil's saying now. The way I done did it is I have them looking at a man who looks different, who is actually a man of God, but I've twisted the minds to have them think that now he is jealous of these men who is working for me. This is what Satan's saying. So Satan got men who working for him. And then when the children of God call them out, their blind and deceived audience think that we jealous. Hold on. I said, hold on. Jealous of what? Jealous of what? Jealous of where? Jealous in what department? I'm just trying to understand. Like, can you tell me where I'm jealous at? Because I'm not even trying hard. I ain't even going hard. I ain't even using thumbnails. I ain't even editing videos and putting little sounds on it and putting little music and doing cut-ins and cut. I'm not even trying hard. When the Lord tell me and he authorized me, it ain't my time yet. Because what the Lord done put on me will get me killed. It's not my time yet. I got a 10-year-old son. So I have to tend to my family first. Because the Bible tells us that when you are a man of God, and you gonna step out there, you got to take care of your own home first. Because if you not fit to take care of your home, you not fit to serve in the kingdom. And that's how you know when a man is not from God, because he let his 13-year-old daughter get pregnant while he out talking to everybody else's daughter in the pulpit on Sundays. But he not tending to his own home. When he preaching on everybody else's marriage, but he done went through 2 divorces or 1 divorce himself. That is how you know somebody is not called by God, because God is not the author of confusion. God does not deal in mess. God is the message after the mess. But God is not going to call a man to a platform or a pulpit and have him go through a divorce, because it works against what God stands for. God is a God of marriage, not a God of divorce. So God not going to call a man who done went through a divorce. He going to have him behind the scenes ministering and praying and talking and all of that, but he's not finna elevate him to no platform in this day and age with all of the deception we got going on. So see, let me tell you what let me get back to what the devil's saying. He tell this young lady, okay, that the devil done took and warped the mind so that real is fake and fake is real. Real is fake and fake is real. That's what he done did. So now the devil got it set up to where if you are a real child of God and you stand on business, kingdom business, you stand on the word of God, now you jealous and now you a hater. But see, God has instructed us not to brag. You don't even, you ain't got to go down no grocery list of just how blessed you are. You ain't got to do it. You ain't got nothing to prove to nobody. Let them think you jealous. Because I'm not here to call those who are grown, musky adults choosing to be blind. I'm here to call the lost children of God who is hanging in the balance and torn and confused and struggling to see the real from the fake. That's what God come to do. That's what he come to do. And so we got another call at 1:15. This right here a bonus. This right here a bonus. And this how I'm going to let you know when the Spirit of God is moving and when the Spirit of God is in somebody. And I'm what you got to understand though is the devil can use mouthpieces. The devil has prophets. The devil has pastors. The devil has bishops. The devil has podcasters. The devil got deacons, elders, ushers, men of God. See, a thief don't come to rob an empty vault. See, the kingdom, the body is so rich with souls for God that the adversary got to get in there. That's why in the word that I put up, when he say, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, let me help you understand this. In Matthew 7:21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. So I showed y'all James 3 before, where it talks about us not having filthy speech, profane speech, profanity, because a freshwater well cannot produce salt water, and a saltwater well can't produce fresh water. The demon in disguise I talked to last night, Lil Ugly, called me the N-word in an aggressive, forceful tone, and then later tried to apologize. But you knew what you were saying when you said it. And you said it in your head before it came out your mouth, because from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. And that right there was a fighting word. But what it was is, when you can't win in spiritual warfare, you try to get abusive and you try to get forceful, because you don't have the eloquence and the ability for God to speak through you, because God does not know you. And he don't know your audience who is deceived by you. And so right here, Jesus say, many will say unto me that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? You ain't hear what I just said. This is the word of Jesus Christ. He say, many will say unto me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles. This is how there is deception in the body. This is how it's deception in the body, because what people don't understand is that when Satan came to earth, he was given dominion over earth. He has kingdoms on earth. God comes when called, and God can conquer anything that Satan establishes when God is called and you are walking with God, when you do the will of the Father. So let me take you back to what Jesus said. Not everyone, in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. I talked to the gentleman last night who has a Christian podcast, and he told me he's still in fornication. So you mean to tell me that the power of God is not real in your life? Because I was a womanizer. So technically, if you let the devil children tell it, once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a dog, always a dog. But why is there not a man, woman, dog, horse, or cow in the world? I got to add them everything in, because we got some nasty people out here that could say they sleeping with me, because of the power of God that has been bestowed upon me when I pray, Lord, renew my mind, renew my heart. I don't have to worry about, like the gentleman told me, he falling into sex sin every 5 months or 7 months. I don't have to worry about falling into adultery in every 5 months, every 7 months, because I'm walking with the Holy Spirit, because I'm walking with God. I don't have to fall into sex sin. I don't have to be sitting and worrying about a divorce and going through a divorce and cheating on my wife multiple times when I have the ability and the access to cheat. Because what you got to realize is there are men who look like the bottom of a shoe that's cheating. There are men who look like a black Air Force One, who look like the muffler on a 56 Buick, and they cheating. There are men who is under the height requirement cheating. There are men with all kind of features that have gone awry, with faces that only a mother can love, and they cheating and have the audacity to cheat. I do not like American beauty standards. I despise it because it causes us a lot of pain. But if you so happen to fall outside of the constructs of what is considered handsome, how dare you be fortunate enough to be married and have the audacity to cheat multiple times, and you look a mess? How dare you find it in your chest to cheat and you look like that? How dare you? It don't matter what you look like, you supposed to be faithful. It don't matter how tall you is, how many abs you got, you supposed to be faithful. How dare you fall into fornication and adultery and stay in it, and then go through a divorce and then want to sit down and give relationship advice with charlatans and scammers and abusers and fornicators, and don't do your homework on who you got sitting talking to these people who are vulnerable, who are lost, who are gullible, who seeking a good word, but they don't know. And the thing about it is, it's not about the masses. See, if you look at what Jesus said, he say, if a shepherd got 100 sheep and he lose the one, will he just forget the one and go with the 99? See, let me help you understand something. It's not that these men are sleeping with multiple women. God cares about that one woman that he is deceiving. God cares about that one soul that he has in fornication with him. God cares about her. God cares. See, it's a lot of women who follow these false prophets and follow these pulpit pimps and these podcast pimps and these platform pimps, and they follow these men, and these men is slaughterhousing these women behind closed doors. And this is what, see, this where you got to be walking with the Spirit to know. They will come out and admit to their sin. You know why they do that? To disarm the woman. Now, you talk to your therapist about what term that is, whatever term that is. They come out and admit, I struggle with fornication. I try to walk right and I do the right thing, but man, I fall into it. And they try to make it about jest, and they try to make it relatable, and they try to get comfort from their audience because they want the audience to be like, it's okay, we know, I just got off me some last night, just got out of the defiled bed last night, you okay, you forgiven. But it ain't even about them. It ain't about the audience. It ain't about the relatability. It ain't about that. It's to disarm that woman. Because if that woman come out and tell that this man been saying the name of God and been sitting with pastors and ministers and Christian speakers and holding Christian events, but he been shacking up and he been in fornication with me and he deceived me, he misled me, I fell into sin because God has given man dominion over my body. God has made me as a woman to be in submission to a man. So there was a veil put over my eyes. There was wool put over my eyes. But this is a demon in disguise. But see, when the man comes out and he tell his story before the woman tell the story, now the woman ain't got to tell the story. Because when the man tell his story, not everybody feel fine that he told his story. So now nobody care no more, because they say, well, at least he admitted it. At least he told on himself. And then he could continue slaughterhousing every 5 to 7 months behind closed doors. And see, this is what we got, these podcast pimps. Now at 1:15, we done went on, and y'all missed, if you miss any of this, watch it back. I'm coming back 1:15 Eastern. That's in 30 minutes. And we talking about Lil Ugly. We talking about the spirit of deception that's in these men today. And guess what? Because some of these clowns want to call my name, I'm finna expose their game. And I was already exposing it, but now I'm finna have a concerted effort. Now I'm finna have a righteous indignation. Now I'm finna be obedient. Now they gonna have to get right. Now they gonna have to get right, or they gonna get destroyed. Now the line is in the sand. You can't play in God's face no more. Now you can't play with these women mind. You can't play with these women heart, because I'm finna call it out. So that's what you got to realize this. You got to realize this and understand that it's about to get real now. You done woke up a sleeping giant. Now the game finna get exposed. And you know what I know? I know that demons fear the name of Christ. So the demons that's going to be on here watching this, the people that's operating under a demonic spirit, going to be on here watching this, and they going to feel a conviction in their heart, because the Holy Spirit cannot be denied. Because what we are teaching is a righteous lifestyle, a committed lifestyle. We are not trying to play in the face of God, and we are not trying to play on grace and manipulate God. We're trying to be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect, as Jesus instructed us to do. We're not trying to be platform pimps. We're not trying to be podcast pimps. We're not trying to be pulpit pimps. We're trying to be children of God who are obedient and willing servants. And the wool finna be taken off the eyes. The wool finna be shaved off the eyes of the people who are under these podcast pimps being led astray. And see, this the thing, what people don't understand about Satan. And this is what I was going to tell you. Satan will send a woman to sleep with these men just to fill up his tank so he could keep going. And the woman will be beautiful. She will be shapely. But she worked for the devil. And what it does is it takes the man's heart away from God so that he cannot see a wife. He can't get married. He can't attract a quality woman of God because he's working for Satan. So God has his daughters protected from these men. These men can't even see a woman of God because they in fornication every 5 to 7 months, and then coming in and admitting it to their audience that they struggle with sex sin, but they in fornication. So God is protecting his daughters from these men. And that's why these men can't meet no wife, because they not living for God in fullness, in truth, in spirit. They are liars, and they are deceivers, and they are manipulators. And because they are little ugly, because they've been short all their life and been talked about, because they've been too light or too dark or too big or too ugly or too pretty or too white, too black, because they've been too something, they've been feeling inadequate, they've been feeling insufficient, they've been feeling overlooked, they've been feeling mistreated, and then they hit their 30s and they hit their 40s, and now they want to reap a harvest for all the pain that they done suffered. And what's going to happen is the devil keeps sending them women, and what's happening is they sitting there and they talking to this audience, and this audience is filling up with women. And the Jezebels in the crowd start sliding in the DM. And so now they getting to have sex every 5 to 7 months. Like the man told me last night, that's his number. Some of them is every month. Some of them is every week. And they get to have sex with all these different women. And that's why your single relationship coaches stay single. That's why your single eligible black male podcasters 40 and up stay single. That's why your pastor, who is 40 plus, is still single after his divorce, because the devil is sending them jump offs. The devil sending them women who will give them sex and not say a word. She will live in silence because she worked for Satan and he worked for Satan. And the devil gonna take care of his own to keep them full. But when he done with them, when Satan is done with them, when Satan say that when Satan realized he has deceived millions, when Satan realized that the numbers have climbed to 176,000 on Instagram, and the numbers have climbed to whatever the number is, Satan gonna confuse the mind of his children, and they're gonna look at me and say, oh, I'm jealous. Oh, he jealous of what? Look better, talk better, married, amazing wife, 2 straight A sons, oldest son being recruited by Yale. Jealous of what? 3.5 million supporters online. Jealous of what? Quiet because I want to be quiet. Did not fall off. I stepped off because God told me you got to take care of your family first. You taking care of the world. Let me tell you what happened. I became the first life coach ever in the history of the NBA. They hired me without a college degree to mentor and mediate between 2 superstars who both was making $30 million a year. They fired the sports psychologist, the doctor. This is what God will do. God don't call doctors. He give who he call a doctorate. They fired the doctor and they hired me. I called the Hall of Famer by the name of Tracy McGrady. And I say, did y'all have a life coach when you was in the NBA? He say, no. I called Victor Oladipo, who was on the Orlando Magic. And I say, do y'all have a life coach? And he say, no. I called Anthony Davis, who was on the New Orleans Pelicans. And I say, do y'all have a life coach? And he said, no. I called Damian Lillard, who was on the Portland Trail Blazers. And I say, do y'all have a life coach? And he said, no. Everybody say, we don't know a team in the NBA with a life coach or who has ever had a life coach. But at that same time, I was on the Real Love Tour. So I was being called out to this city. They flew me from my state of Florida to their state every week. And I was on contract to do 2 days with these 15 millionaires, mentoring them as young men. And after those 2 days, I would leave and I would go on tour. I was at home for about 1 to 2 days a week. And this was in 2016. At that time, my post on Facebook was reaching 20 million people a week. See, people got it confused because they don't understand what a true man of God looks like. See, when you a man of God, you understand that if you got married, that is your first ministry. If you had kids, that is your first ministry. Some men believe that they could leave their wife and kids home forever and they could just tour their whole time and they could do all this extracurricular stuff, but that is not the order of God. God say, take care of your home first. Paul say, when you get married, you got to tend to the things of the world, meaning your wife and your family. Then you tend to the things of the Lord, but you cannot lose your own home and try to go out in public and claim souls. That's why you see pastors going through divorce, because their home is not their first ministry. They're not loving their wife the way Christ loved the church. They giving her their butt to kiss, and then they placating and they sucking up to these women to get in these women purses so these women will give $2,100 in 21 days. That's what they doing. And they not focusing on home. And so this is what this platform and these podcast pimps is doing. And so the idiots, because see, I'm going to use that word because some people have been turned over to a reprobate mind. They say Tony Gaskins fell off. No, Tony Gaskins stepped off because I'm happily married of 17 years with 2 straight A sons who also are starters on their soccer team playing at the highest level that kids could play at. My son play MLS next to where he can't even play high school soccer because he at the highest level in youth soccer. And he start and he play 90 minutes. And he a straight A student. He in virtual school right now. And he in real school going to the school. Went and spent a month and a half in England training. That's what I did. I took my son as a black man from Florida to England. And we trained in England in December and all of January and into the first week of February. You tell me another black leader, you tell me another black man that's taking his black son out of Florida and taking him to London, England and Manchester, England to play the game that he loved and to experience another culture at the age of 17. That's what Tony Gaskins did. I can't fall off because I served the Lord. I stepped off because God said your household come first. That's why I don't use custom thumbnails. That's why I didn't use little ugly face in my thumbnail. That's why I didn't have his name in the comments. He came to watch me and heard his name in the video and then went back to his audience to try to talk about me to his audience who is lost and who is blind. Because they can't even see that they taking godly advice and listening to a so-called godly platform from a man that's in fornication. And the men that's being brought up there have never got a marriage correct. 5 or 10 of them done it right. The rest of them is abusers and fornicators. And they sitting there and they getting a whole new audience to put them in their email funnel so that they could sell them thousands of dollars worth of products. And the man don't even realize he aiding and abetting the devil work. And then got on the phone with me and showed me his true colors. Showed me that he working for Satan by telling me he don't vet his guests. And he don't care about how they live their life. And he don't judge people. I say you have a responsibility. Because when you say the name of God, where much is given, much is required. If you're going to say the name of God, you have to live above reproach. And if you not, I got my sights on you. And the same way Jesus flipped tables, I'm flipping tables. And guess what? I don't care about what Satan's children think about me. Because the one thing I care about and the only woman that opinion matters to me is Cherie Gaskins. And guess what? She ain't had to work a job in 20 years. She ain't worked a job in 20 years. She could work if she want to work, but she don't want to work. She want to be a full-time wife and mother. She don't care about fame. She don't care about being in the limelight. And then here go little clown gonna bring up where I talked about me and my wife doing a matchmaking show and my wife stole the show. It's because I had not recently got out the streets living for the devil and changed my life. And I am an introvert, as quiet as it's kept. So I was very shy on the camera. And my wife, she stepped up for me because she saw how nervous I was. But that is not her desire. She did not want to do that. And she said she'll never do it again. And she has no desire. When she wrote the book, she did that for me to help me get the word of God out. Because the publisher didn't want to give me just a 1-book deal. They wanted a 2-book deal so they could make double the money. And they wanted the second book to be me and my wife. So my wife said, I will agree to write 2 pages per chapter. But she did that so the word can go forth. So why would my wife agree to come on a Mammy Lane podcast where the host is living in fornication and using profanity against another black man behind closed doors, calling me the N-word, and my wife can look because she lived with a real when she know what a lane look like? I don't have to go home and worry about my wife watching Man podcast. She has never sent me a podcast of a man. She have never sent me a video of a man. She never sent me a motivational quote of a man. You know why? Because she lived with a real example of a man of God. So she has no need outside of her household. And I told the man last night, I say, you look like a porn watcher to me. And if you ain't no porn watcher, you look like a pervert. Me being a protector of my wife, I don't even want to bring my wife to sit in front of you because of the way that you done live your life. You done cheated all on your ex-wife. And then instead of leaving that and creating a podcast that is called Dear Young Brother, Listen Up. Dear my brother, let's heal. You create this thing to where it is out here trying to position for women to be in the DM. And then guess what? The women who get plucked off, they ain't gonna say a word. because they're going to feel stupid. They're going to feel foolish. They're going to be like, man, I slept with this man. I can't believe this. Man, how in the world did this happen? The man told me out his own mouth. And see, listen, I call a spade a spade. When I call somebody out, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not finna call somebody out that's walking with the Lord fully and is above reproach. When I call somebody out, I know what I see in the spirit. And it was confirmed with me last night when he called me the N-word with air in his chest. And I had to check him and let him know, don't you ever call me an N-word. You better watch who you talking to. Because, boy, you don't know who you on the phone with. I had to check him and let him know. Ain't nothing scary over here. Please know that just because this phone line is between us, don't get it twisted. That just because I walk with the Lord, don't think that I'm soft. Don't think that I'm scared. And he said, oh, I had to mention your name because you mentioned my name. I'm not finna be out here looking like a punk. I say it's a lot of young men that's getting killed right now because they didn't want to look like a punk. I say, if I mention you, mention me the way I mention you. If you not in my thumbnail, don't put me in your thumbnail. If I didn't at you, don't at me. If you feel disrespected, you got the right to address disrespect, but you address me the way I address you, or you're going to have another problem. And see, this the thing right here. We have these Decepticons, and this is why I'm calling it out, because if these men who look like a black Air Force One could cheat and fall into fornication every 5 to 7 months, what you think I could do with more reach? What you think I could do when my Instagram 6-7 times the size? What you think I could do? If a demon in disguise could find somebody that's willing to sleep with him when she know that he got a platform under the name and under the umbrella of God, under Christian conversation, bringing on real bishops and real pastors and real ministers to talk about God, she know that she's sleeping with somebody who claimed to be a Christian. So if the next man could do it, what you think I could be doing? But guess what? The devil will confuse the mind and he'll say, oh, Tony Gaskin's jealous. Jealous of what? Jealous where? Back to what I was saying. People saying, oh, Tony Gaskin fell off. Tony Gaskin fell off. You know what it was? I was reaching 80 million people a month. And I was gone 5 to 6 days a week. And I came home one day and I had the trappings of success. And I was in a Maserati Gran Turismo, $160,000 car. And I was driving my son in that car because I thought it'd be cool because of the rev of the motor and the 20, 22 and 21 inch reels, the staggered wheel base, and it looked like a Batmobile. So I'm driving my 8-year-old to school. But my mind was so wrapped up and caught up in the grown men that I work with this professional sports team and my tour stops that's coming up that I couldn't listen to my 8-year-old. And while I was sitting and I'm listening to my 8-year-old, I was like, I wasn't present. And I was like, son, you know, you don't have to talk all the time. It's okay to just ride in silence sometimes. But that was because I was too preoccupied. And my son say, Dad, sometimes I'm quiet, but you wouldn't know because you never hear. So the people who say I fell off, I stepped off. I could have kept my foot on the devil's neck when Facebook told me that my posts, my quotes alone was reaching 20 million people a week. I knew it was real in 2014 through 2016 when I walked into Walgreens and the young lady behind the counter knew who I was in Walgreens. I went through the drive-through of Wendy's and the lady handed me my food, knew who I was. I got on the airplane and went to sleep in first class, woke up to a note from the stewardess who knew who I was. I said, Lord, the world has closed in on me. And this was 2015, 2016. And I was giving 90% of my time to this pro team, but they was paying me 10% of my income because that's what God does for his true servants. So when somebody could fix their mouth to say I'm jealous of another man, that's when I know they turned over to a reprobate mind and they don't know the Spirit of God. If the Spirit of God slapped them in their face, because they have been bamboozled and they have been deceived, and they see a fornicating leader and will put him in the same sentence with a married and faithful man of God, who will at the same time expose myself and express my fault. So what the devil does is he trains his minions. He trained his minions to take and say, oh, you know what? I need to change this here title. He changed his minions. He trained his minions to do some of what true children of God do. That's what he does. Because what he knows is that if his demons, his workers, can have a semblance of those of us who really work for God and who live our lives above reproach, meaning that we're not in willing sin. We're not falling into fornication every 5 to 7 months like the gentleman told me, and then told me he admits it to his audience. If somebody is sitting and they are bringing me Christian relationship content, and they tell me they living contrary to the word of God to my face, I'm going to tell them, well, you need to sit down and shut up. Because if you can't get it right, you need to sit down and listen and let somebody else have the platform, who is going to exemplify the power of God and who is going to live for God. And let me tell you, young ladies who is sleeping with these pulpit pimps and these podcast pimps and these platform pimps, you will have to answer to God as well, because you doing the work of the adversary and you are a willing participant in fornication when you know that this man is claiming to be a man of God. You will have blood on your hands too, because you are enabling these perverts to sit up and say the name of God, but live contrary to his word behind closed doors. And then these men, when they talk to me directly, they will take and poke their chests out and laugh in my face, knowing that they deceiving the people, knowing that they is calling God a lie, knowing that they playing with the name of God, knowing that God is not in their heart. I talked to this man last night, and he told me he went and did a podcast at this church of a pastor who cheated on his wife and got another woman pregnant. I say, so how is you doing the work of the Lord and you taking the work of the Lord to this man church, a heathen who is so arrogant to have sinned against God in the pulpit and never sat down, and then preached the sermon talking about I'm still the man? Pure arrogance. I say, you gonna have to answer to God. And I'm telling you right now, because it's one thing that I know, if I don't know nothing else, is you cannot play with God. You cannot play with God. If the name of God leave your lips, you have to do everything in his power, through his power, to live a life that will not be a hindrance to your brethren. You cannot be a stumbling block for your brethren, because when you come before your people and you tell them that you are divorcing your wife, or you have cheated on your wife, or you are in fornication, and you continue to talk, you are condoning the sin. Because when you fall beneath reproach, you need to sit down. All recordings need to be halted. The season need to be ended, and you need to be ministered to, and you need to get your heart right. And see, the thing about it is, I already know what I see, and I already know what I see in the spirit, and I already know what I call. But listen, we finna go to this next series, Little Ugly, at 11:15. So y'all let me hang up on here because it's 1:11, and y'all come back in 4 minutes. I'll be back. It's gonna take a little time. I know it's gonna take a little time for y'all to get back, and some people got to go to work. But if you miss any of this, listen back to it and look at the link in the description, because what I do is I don't ask for donations. I give opportunities. So when you look at the link in the description, you're gonna see an actual investment opportunity for equity, not a donation link. Thank you. God bless you. We'll talk soon. 1:15. I'll be back. 4 minutes.